Hello there, Take Two family, and welcome to your show. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani with Jerry Usher, and hopefully you are the key person here because you bring the wisdom, the experience. We just introduce the topics. So I think you're going to have something to say about this one because we all have those friendships, those relationships that we like to cultivate, we like to work on, and we're going to have a healthy discussion today, Jerry, I think that can really help all of us setting those boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, setting boundaries. It's very, very important. And maybe if you're listening to this conversation about this and you're saying, well, what are boundaries? Maybe you don't even know exactly what boundaries are or how to implement them in your relationships. We're going to be talking about that. You could call and ask that very question if you'd like. Or if you find that you have established healthy boundaries with all of the people that you know and you love to spend time with and it works out great, definitely weigh in because you'll teach a lot of people about how to do that. So our number, as always, is 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. And as always, you can watch us on Facebook and YouTube, and you can comment various other ways as well by a text. Send the letters EWTN to 55000. You can post at take2show.com or send an email to take2@EWTN.com. We should probably intermingle those throughout the first 10 minutes of the show. It'd probably be easier.
You did that all in one breath. I'm pretty impressed. Jerry, talking about these interpersonal skills, there's all sorts of things that we do in relationships to work on them, to build them, to increase them, to make them very healthy, right? So we have like active listening and we support one another. We motivate, Jerry. We motivate each other. We're there to sympathize and empathize. But when we give and give and give and give and give in relationships, do we ever feel like we're being taken advantage of? And so how do we pull back then? Because people expect certain things from us when we are engaging in these relationships, right? So we're talking about setting these healthy boundaries that really are healthy in our Christian walk of life. Wouldn't you say that, Jerry? Because I don't want people to, sometimes people say, well, as a Christian, I just have to do everything for everybody. And, it doesn't matter. I'm going to sacrifice. And that's not true, Jerry.
It always, for me, it gets back to the old, what does the flight attendant say? Put your own oxygen mask on first. It's not ignoring or neglecting anybody else or their needs or their wants, but you can give and give and give and have literally no boundaries around you, and you're going to be ground to dust pretty soon, and you're going to be not worth anything because you're just going to be not only physically, Debbie, but I think mentally, emotionally, psychologically, we can get really, really beaten down by the fact that we don't have proper boundaries around us. And I'll tell you what, there have been times in my life when I would get back from being around certain people or whatever, and I would just kick myself. And I would say, why does this happen all the time? Well, you know why? Because I let it happen all the time, So, it's boundaries are kind of a two-part thing. It's the people who want to be with you, want a piece of you, want some of your time, which is beautiful that people do that. But the second part of it is, and the harder one for me anyway, for many to get down to, Debbie, I think, is knowing how and where to set the boundaries and when to implement them.
And when to say no. You have to say no to commitments and certain invitations and obligations because you have to also have that balance. And so let's talk about that right now. How have you set boundaries in your relationships? Now, we're talking about friends. How about relatives, family, your birth family, whatever. Okay, tell us. We want to learn from you. Have you set boundaries? Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you're struggling with it and you're going, I'm going to call in because I'm really having a problem. You want to give us an example, and maybe we can talk about that because this helps us. We learn a little bit from each and every one of the Take Two family, and then we walk away a little bit changed, a little bit closer to God. That's the goal here. So here's the number. Please don't wait till the end of the show. If you do that, you may not get on, and it really bothers both of us. So 833-288-3986. You'll speak to Ryan Penny. Please dial this now, 1-833-288-3986.
As you know, Debbie, I tend to be, or at least I try to be, a very friendly type of person, looking people in the eye, greeting them with some, how are you doing today, or some other phrase, and I really do care about that. But There are times, though, when if you do enter into a dialogue, say, with somebody, I'll just use an example at the gym in the steam room one day. This guy was just talking. It's one thing for brief pleasantries. Hi, how you doing? Not great day outside, isn't it? And then this gentleman starts asking me about what I do and what part of town do you live in and what kind of car do you drive and all this stuff. And I'm like, boundaries went up immediately. And I just said, I don't know what I said. I was nice to him, but I said, it's just not something I really want to talk about right now. So would you call that an example of boundaries, or is that just self-defense?
Well,
self-preservation.
I think your guard went up, though, because it seemed like he was a little intrusive. I mean, he came on too quick, wanting to know personal things about you. And I think he overstepped his. He got into your personal boundary space. And I think that could be, I don't know. Most people would look at that a little bit, they'd kind of get their hand up and say, whoa, back up there. You're getting a little too, close too quick. I mean, I don't know. I think you got to have a bit of protocol, proper protocol and respect of somebody else's personal life. You can ask a few questions. I don't know. Although I'm very inquisitive, so I ask a ton of questions. But you've been with me, Jerry. I've asked a lot of people in airports and stuff, but I usually do it to get show material. But I don't think I've been very intrusive. Do you think I've been intrusive?
If you had been, I wouldn't have noticed it, because I do not recall a single time when I can say that you were. And with this other situation that I'm talking about, if it's somebody that I saw over and over again in the weight room, on the basketball floor, in the steam room, and over 6 months to a year, we really kind of bond in a sort of, secular type of friendship, if I can put it that way, not anything, maybe not around religious things or what have you, but even then I could see, opening up a little bit more to somebody. And I think that naturally happens. It organically happens. Mm-hmm. But on the first or second time when you're with somebody, it is a little bit over the top. But what about you? Do you have any concrete examples?
It's taken me 40 years to set boundaries. I am from a birth family. We're 100, as I've said this before, we're 100% Sicilian, which is rare in and of itself. And I think our family never really had very good boundaries. So we would cross those boundaries and, hurt one another intentionally or unintentionally. So it's taken me about 40 years, but we want to hear from you. Please dial in. Tell us about this at 833-288-3986.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Have you ever been so grief-stricken and so heart-sick that you can't see God? You can't see God in the tragedy. You can't see God in that cross. You can't see God in that sick. Why? You're enveloped in that grief. You're enveloped in fear. And God is out the window. You don't see Him standing right next to you.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
More to life.
The Church has 2,000 years of wisdom to share on what it takes to live life gracefully.
We're so overwhelmed by how much our faith has transformed our marriage and family especially. We want everyone to experience the incredible gift that the Catholic vision of life and love really is.
More to Life with Dr. Greg and Lisa Popchak. Tomorrow morning, 10 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
We need EWTN Radio for the reason that Mother Angelica founded this entire enterprise. She always saw this as a spiritual growth network. It was to be an enterprise in media that reached people in all aspects of their life. She saw this as a holistic approach to reaching the whole person in the middle of the world and bringing them truth and life.
Raymond Arroyo thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
Hi, it's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Debbie and I will be live with you today, and then again tomorrow we will have previously aired shows on Thursday and Friday for a very, very beautiful, wonderful spiritual reason that we will tell you a little bit more about during this program. You probably already know what I'm talking about. But for right now, I just wanted to mention one of the other great radio offerings on EWTN Radio is Catholic Answers Live, and you will hear it again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Catholic Answers Live, 2 hours of questions and answers, and the answers are from the most, I think, the brightest, some of the brightest thinkers in the church that we have today, the apologists on staff at Catholic Answers. So most of these stations carrying our show right now carry Catholic Answers Live. So tune in weeknights at 6 p.m.
Okay, so share your experience of setting boundaries in relationships. We want to hear from you. Please dial in. There's some open phone lines, so that's perfect. You'll get right in at 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Remember, you drive the show, so we need your help. Don't sit this out. Don't just take notes. Our friend G from New Jersey just said she's going to be listening intently. She wants to learn all about setting boundaries. Yeah, we all do. And it's very important. I just wanted to say, Jerry, real quickly, back to my family. You know, my family, we tend to, my birth family, we tend to play hard, fight hard, laugh hard. Everything's done to a little bit of an extreme. And I think it would have been healthy for all of us to have set proper boundaries early on, because we've overstepped on many occasions and caused, really hurt feelings. And so I'm wondering, do other families have the situation? I come from a big family. I'm one of 6. So there was, with 2 parents, there was 8 of us in a pretty little house in New Jersey. And so in fact, I think we all shared one bathroom, I think. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Can you believe that?
How did that happen? That's not metaphysically possible, is it?
Well, at least 4 of us did, I think. I don't know. It's amazing when you think about how we utilize space when you were growing up. Nowadays, everybody's just so spread out. They love big houses and big things. And we grew up in a little house, but we had a lot of fun. But setting boundaries, I think, is very important. So please, if you have something to say about this, if you feel prompted by the Spirit, now is the time to step up. Yes, it is a global audience, but it's very important because this is we're living out our baptismal call by helping one another, helping the body of Christ. 833-288-3986.
Okay, it is your show. Please take it and run with it. And maybe you've mastered the art of setting boundaries. Maybe you don't even know what boundaries are. And Debbie, what are we exactly talking about here? When I think some people who are listening right now maybe think, well, I need to have a boundary between me and calling the show right now. Because
yeah. I think for me, Jerry, the boundaries I think that are healthy is that the ones that when you really do want to give and be there and spend your time without having any feelings of resentment, or feelings of, regret that you said yes to something. I just know for me, like I said earlier, it took me 40 years. I used to say yes to everything, Jerry, everything. Okay. I would be running at, 100 miles an hour and somebody would call and say, hey, do you want to meet for lunch? I say, sure. And now how was I supposed to fit that in? I don't know. So I would get in the car and I'd be thinking to myself, why did I say yes? Why didn't I just say, I've got too much going on today. Can we do it another day? But I think with maturity and I think, an understanding of how to conduct yourself in a balanced way, that's where the boundaries come in. That's how I would describe it. How about you?
Yeah, you described it exactly. It just came washing over me. Yes, yes, yes. I have so much of my life. I have been that yes man as well, Debbie, and not really wanted to turn anything down. I often try and neither you or I are psychologists or therapists or anything, but I try and play one once in a while and try and figure out why it is that I do that. And I just think it has to do with probably things earlier in life, maybe getting wounded in certain ways or not wanting to offend people, not wanting to say no to people. They may not like me. And I will even say this, Debbie, and many people can probably relate to this. My dear, sweet, beloved late mother, we had great relationship the many, many years and years of her life, but not always when I was younger and into my 20s and so forth. And, I think she violated a lot of boundaries with me. The husband was gone. She got divorced, so the husband was gone. So all of a sudden, the boundary that should have been there between me and her, that of mother and son, became in some ways, not physical or sexual or anything, but emotionally and psychologically, and in terms of duties to her and her duties to me.
You became like her husband.
Yeah. She elevated me to a spousal role, and that really shattered those boundaries. And so, Debbie, when someone grows up without knowing what healthy boundaries are, I think they're at a great disadvantage for being able to implement healthy boundaries throughout the rest of their life. Is that possible?
Totally agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
Totally agree with that. And that's unfortunate because, see, your mother needed another person to carry the weight of a big family and to help. And you were the oldest son, correct? Weren't you the oldest son?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So she was leaning on you, but in a very unhealthy way because you were a kid. You weren't her spouse. You were her son. And so, yeah, that's going to make you feel like, do I say yes to always? Do I have to step up all the time, even though I'm not equipped to do that? Yeah, that's a very good angle, Jerry. And I think that's something we should explore during this conversation. Phone lines are filling up. That's good. We do have an open phone line. Please, if you do feel that little nudging in your spirit, you want to share something on this or maybe comment about Jerry's story or my story growing up as well, please call in now at 1-833-288-3986.
Yeah, and just to finish that, Debbie, I mentioned that in her later years, we had a fantastic relationship. It was never contentious or fighting all the time or anything. It was just a little bit dysfunctional. But there got to be times when wherever I lived, and it could be 1,000, it could be 3,000 miles away from her, when the phone would ring, I would just sort of tense up. Yeah, cringe and tense up. And to be honest with you, and I'm not really proud to say this, I would not answer the calls a lot of times and let a little bit of time go by before I called her back, maybe even the next day. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that at all. But even the phone calls, Debbie, brought down boundaries. Violated boundaries.
Yeah. Well, it was burdening you. And you know what? I know you say you're not proud of that, but maybe you needed that healthy distance just to kind of get your mind around it so that when you did engage with your mom, you could do it in a better way. And I think that's what we're trying to get to, Jerry. You don't want to just pick up the phone and say, oh, it's mom again. Okay, I'm going to answer. And then you have a sense of anger underneath. No, I think that's actually healthy that you took a little bit of time. I mean, you eventually called her back, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
every
see?
time.
I wouldn't feel guilty about it. I just wouldn't because you did. I mean, it's not like you avoided her and she was trying to find you all over creation,
No, and every work trip to the Seattle area, I would go and visit with her for several days. And, this was, again, later in her life, and God rest her soul. She was a beautiful woman, beautiful, beautiful woman, very, very close to the faith. And she had her headphones on with Catholic radio on all the time. So she was in a good place, so...
Yes, absolutely. And Jerry, may I just say something because I want to make sure because this show moves so quickly. We have a special invitation for the Take Two family if you're interested. And may I just say this real quickly before we get to the phones? Our first book of 7 or 8 or 9 that's coming out hopefully by the end of the year. Our first book, it's called the Take Two Real Life Series. And the title, the first book is going to be called Loved Ones That Have Left the Faith. Loved ones that have left the faith, a son or a daughter, a husband, a wife, a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, loved ones that have left the faith. If you have a compelling story, if you want to impart your story to this book, we're gonna have it's a compilation of real life stories. Some are going to have happy endings. Some are still going to be unfolding. Some may not have a happy ending. We don't know. We're going to let the Holy Spirit just drive this. If you feel prompted by the Spirit that you would like to give your story over to this book, please, would you send us an email just saying, I'm interested, tell me more. We will call you. You don't have to give us the whole story because we're not going to be able to read it. We can't do that because we're just going to be bogged down with reading stories and then we won't get to the publishing of the book. So if you're interested, give us your name, your contact information, and Jerry and I will call you. You send the email to take2@EWTN.com. We already have 2 stories that we are going to use for the book. We need 10 more. So if you feel you want to, take2@EWTN.com.
Change some people's lives. You may be one who has someone in your life who did leave a practice of the faith and has come back, and everything's beautiful, everything's glorious. That would be wonderful to contribute if that fits what we're looking for. But again, as Debbie said, these are not going to be all the happy-go-lucky, happy ending, cherry on top of the ice cream. Everybody came home from being away from the faith. Everything's hunky-dory. We want to include some chapters as well from people who are still begging. They're on their knees begging God. They're trying to communicate to this loved one who's left the faith of the importance of coming back home. And so we want to have that book, Debbie, so that everybody who reads it, everybody will be able to relate to at least some of the chapters.
That's right. And find hope, find healing, find comfort. We want the good, the bad, and the ugly to help others. Okay. You got to hear it all. You can't just have the glossed over stories, and people say, well, that's not me. I can't relate to it. We want people to be able to relate to each and every different aspects of the stories. Right, Jerry?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you were drinking some water.
Okay. All right. We got a lot of calls here. Sorry for the delay here, folks. We got to get to you. 833-288-3986. There is a line open. You'll get on it right now when you dial that number, and you can share your take on boundaries, establishing boundaries in your life with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, with your neighbors, keeping those healthy arm's length distances when you have to, when you want to, but also just allowing them in closer into your life when those circumstances call for that as well. So first up is Maria in Houston, listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Maria. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for talking with me. As I was saying to the screen caller, we have adult children, have grandchildren, so we're used to setting boundaries from how much we're willing to babysit our grand treasures to other things. But uniquely right now, my son has developed an alcoholic issue. And for a while there, he would come home as part of what we perceived as recovery. But this last time, he seemed to do what he was doing at home here. And while we don't want to seem like we're abandoning him, we know he needs help. He is sometimes seeking professional help. It's better understanding what kind of boundaries we do lovingly with him in our home.
Mm-hmm. Well, Maria, are you familiar with Al-Anon? Relatives. Yes. Okay. With a lot of the principles in that talk about establishing those boundaries and having a bit of tough love, I guess you would call it. So talk a little bit more about that for those, because we all have, all of us. Well, I shouldn't say all of us. Most of us have adult children that we're still kind of trying to figure out their personality. They're getting into some things. Maybe there's addictive behavior. Maybe there's some other, destructive behaviors. So we're trying to learn about our adult children. Maybe can you add a little bit more to that, Maria?
Well, I mean, he comes home. I mean, he doesn't live in our same city, but he comes home, and again, we think that he's trying to recover. But this last time, he's drinking here and behaving in ways that we don't condone. So we can only control what we can control. We love him. We try to tell him, look, this is what we're willing to do. But I'm finding that it's not working, and looking to see if that tough love is appropriate in a time where we're his support system, and if he goes back home, he doesn't have it there. Whether he will seek professional help on his own is questionable, because we've seen that he doesn't. But when he's here, he does.
Well, it's an interesting mix of things then, Maria, because when he's there where you are, it sounds like he's seeking professional help. But you've also made the point a couple of times that he also is drinking and behaving inappropriately when he's there with you all as well. And I know you mentioned you called them grand treasures, your grandchildren. What a beautiful way to say that. And I think a boundary in this situation, Debbie, is really one of those more, I think, cut and dried and really critical boundaries, simply because I know what it's like to grow up around a dad who drank a lot and verbally abused my mom and did all kinds of unfortunate things. And you pick those things up and you have to try and shed them during life. So the formative years, Debbie, of the kids is so very, very important right now. And I think, Maria is doing the right thing in really trying to figure out how do we not get them exposed to the bad side of their father.
Right. Right. Maria, yeah, that's true. Maria, we're not trained therapists or counselors, but I'm just kind of curious. So when your son comes home, I guess he feels safe at home, but then he's still falling back into the same patterns. And you guys are trying to figure out how to navigate through this so that he still maybe can really work on his recovery and be successful at it and not fall back. For me, I mean, just from what you're telling me, if I've got that correct, Maria, it sounds like you guys would be perfect for group counseling to help figure out how to every family member, how it relates to each and every one of you. I don't know if you thought about that, but we're getting ready to have a break, Maria, but I'd love to hear your comments on that. Jerry, did you want to say something on that? Does that kind of jump out at you, that maybe some group counseling?
Well, yeah, it does
Absolutely.
sound. Yeah. So tell you what, Maria, if you can hang on for just a minute, we will continue with you in just a moment. Michael in Boston, Dorothy in Niagara Falls. Dorothy, that was my mother's name, beautiful name. Those of you on the line, please hang on. Ryan is getting to you as quickly as he can. And we do have a phone line open for you to call. Take two with Jerry and Debbie today. It's 833-288-EWTN or 833-288-3986, and we have mentioned the other ways that you can get in on the program as well. If you're watching the live video stream on Facebook or YouTube, hello to all of you. And you can email take2@EWTN.com, post on the show website, which is take2show.com. I'm Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgianni. We got Jeff and Ryan on the controls today, and thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. We will be right back with Maria.
Monsignor Charles Pope.
Healthy cultures esteem age. The hoary crown of wisdom is gray hair. In some cultures, younger children, they're expected to stand up in honor of elderly people.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
There's a great saying that we should be a thermostat and not a thermometer. A thermometer reads the temperature of the room and responds to it. A thermostat sets the temperature of the room. You're going to walk into lots of rooms today, lots of situations and scenarios in your life. Are you responding to everybody else around you, or are you setting the spiritual temperature? Do you find yourself constantly responding to how your kids are acting? Are you letting that determine the kind of father you are? If you got teens in the house, that's not a good idea. Are you basing the kind of spouse you are today on how good your husband or wife's mood is? Are you responsive to the virtue or lack thereof in your workplace and letting that determine how you interact with the people around you? No. Start being responsive to God. Keep the person He's calling you to be today front and center. If you're true to that, even if you're quiet, whatever room you walk into, a wave of grace will follow you. Send us a message at connect@reallifecatholic.com. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
I'm Gloria Purvis.
I'm Monsignor Charles Pope.
And I'm Deacon Harold. The Morning Glory team asks, how can workplaces be more respectful of pregnancy and motherhood?
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We're talking with Maria today in Houston, Texas, and having a very good discussion. Maria, I'd love to hear your comments on that. It really sounds like to us that you provided a safety net for your son to come home to, and that is, probably a really good thing for him emotionally. But it sounds like maybe you're struggling with where he's at with recovery.
Exactly. I mean, he's not in the recovery mode this visit, and my husband and I are praying and talking to him, but we see the behavior, and so we want to say, look, son, if you're going to do this, then it's not welcome in our home. We want to be part of your recovery, not enabling you. But the fear, the concern, and I think the group counseling is exactly what we'll do. The fear, concern is that he goes back to home, doesn't feel like he's welcome in our home because of his behavior this visit, and that we're not helping him.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Jerry, what else? Anything else you can impart to that? I mean, it's so hard because when you have somebody in your family who has got an addictive personality, everybody's kind of dragged into it. You know, it's not just the one person that's going through it, and it's so hard. And in Maria, you love your son, but you're dealing with the addiction, and that's the hardest thing because there's no way to predict the outcome of that, and it's so frustrating. I know because I lived it 10 years ago, and I ended up going to Al-Anon things to learn more about what happens when a loved one goes through it, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know they were dealing with all this. So there's all these different levels and emotional and psychological and everything. So Maria, I'm going to pray for you and your family, and I hope the Take Two family joins me, that the right counselor comes into your view, and that everybody's open to going to it, and that you get an overall sense of healing for the entire family. That's what I'm going to pray for. What do you think, Jen?
Thank you.
Yeah, and Maria, I have no doubt, I have no idea, I should say. I have no idea. I'm not saying that your son falls into this category, but I have a relative, I'll just put it that way, who definitely has exhibited a drinking problem, has been to AA meetings many, many times, and been in jail about 3 times, had 2 or 3 DUIs. And the thing about it, he's smart, he's intellectual, he's articulate, and all of those things lend themselves to his being able to sort of paint a picture that's not quite the way it really is. I'm not really sure how to say this, but he knows how to talk the talk when you're talking to him about this, and really get you disarmed and kind of on the defensive a little bit. That hey, I'm doing okay, and I've taken these steps, things are going to be okay, and yet you just watch the continued unraveling of their life. And so I really just think that, when one thing about addiction is it's a very narcissistic type of thing. The person who's addicted may love everybody around them, but the one thing they love the most is the substance that they are going to get to get them out of the pain that they're in. So it's not an easy thing, but you made the key comment. You said you and your husband are praying for him. With God, all things are possible. Debbie and I love Our Lady Undoer of Knots, Maria, if you've heard of that devotion to Mary under that title, Undoer of Knots. She acts fast. Okay, I've had Mary Undoer of Knots act within hours and within a few days sometimes for some pretty big things. So give her a shot at that one.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Maria. But keep listening to the rest of the show, because a lot of times the Take Two family weighs in. So we always care about each other. So you may get some more information that could help you. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you both again. God bless.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael in Boston, listening to the Station of the Cross. Hi, Michael. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello, Debbie and Jerry. How are you today?
Doing pretty well, Michael. How about you?
First of all, that Our Lady Undoer of Knots is excellent. And there's also St. Philomena. You should look into her as well. But that's beside the point when I'm talking about. You're talking about boundaries. I can tell you, in my own case, growing up, going to Catholic school as a kid and going to Mass and the whole thing, the family very Catholic. And there was an emphasis always put on you, don't get in trouble. Then when you heard in the Gospels, turn the other cheek and all that. So it was a big emphasis, don't get in trouble. But no one said anything about this. Sometimes you got to fight back, because then you start becoming like a doormat or maybe the victim of a bully or what have you. And it was only in my older years, I got on the police department and I was hearing the priest. The gospel was about turn the other cheek. And I waited till the Mass was over and I said to the priest, Father, is that figurative or literal? He says, well, what do you think? I said, it's got to be figurative, what he was saying, because it's unrealistic. I said, I'm a police officer. I can't turn the other cheek. Someone's going to hit me and take my gun and hurt some people and do other things. So I have to be aggressive and actually hurt them, put hurt on them, not that I want to affect the arrest or what have you. He says, you're absolutely right. And it was the greatest thing. It freed me from a lot when he said that. He said, because I used to say, Jesus, he said, what you don't want to do is you'd use the effect that you need, the amount of force to take care of the situation. But you do not want to give an extra kick or an extra punch, to lie about in the court. That's the turning of the other cheek, because now you're not becoming the sinner because of it. And that really opened up a lot of things. Okay, that's right. It's just, and I knew it, but when you went to church, and a lot of people don't know that it's a figurative thing. It's not literal. That opens up a lot of doors because, like you say, you kept that in your head. The things you learned as a kid, don't get your mother and parents, father said both sides, don't get in trouble. Don't get the nuns say don't do this. So you hold yourself back, and you get, I think, a lot of pent up energy where you want to give the bully a punch in the nose, but geez, I really don't want to. I'm not supposed to do that. I think I'll be in trouble with God and with my mother and father, let alone the nuns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wow, Michael. I don't know a lot about the inner workings of being a police officer or having, being a part of that fraternity and so forth. But I would think that something like this, you would hear a scripture passage like that, and it would cause you a little bit of pause and say, wait a minute, now you'd examine it. If I turn the other cheek, bad things can happen. If I don't turn the other cheek, then it's going to save maybe a lot of damage from happening and so forth. But then you also have that point where you have to be restrained. You have to have that boundary, like the priest was saying. You don't kick the guy again when he doesn't need another kick. So I don't know, Debbie. It sounds like law enforcement and so many people in their careers have to really have super fine-tuned boundaries and really, really operate by those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to comment on that scripture passage, Michael. When I was in the graduate program for my theology degree, the professor, who happened to be a priest, and the professor described that passage in a very unique way. And he said sometimes it's misunderstood. Now, I'm sure there's probably going to be a lot of theologians and a lot of priests that are probably going to say, Debbie, that's not the way. But I'm just telling you, this is how I heard it in my graduate school. But this priest was saying that in those days when the I guess it's the master would dictate to the slave or whatever how to behave, and they'd strike them across the cheek a certain way. It was like a crossbody strike against the cheek. And the phrase "turn the other cheek" is when you turn the other cheek. When you turn the other cheek, Michael, you're forcing that person to change the way they approach you, to change direction. You're forcing them to not, I guess in that particular case, not to hit you the same way. So you're giving them an opportunity to change their direction so they can not make the same mistake twice. And that's how this priest explained it. And when he did, you talk about a freeing moment. I felt the same way because growing up, whenever I heard that scripture passage, I was like, oh, we Catholics are doormats. We're just going to keep taking it until we're beaten down and kicked to the curb. But no, he says you actually engage with the person that's hurting you to give them an opportunity to change their path and to make a better choice next time. Does that help you at all? Because I always remember this from this wonderful priest professor that gave this talk on this particular passage.
Oh, yes, it does. And that fellow that told me, the priest that told me that, boy, he lifted it up, I think. And I try to tell it to some of my other police officer friends. They're like, what? What? And they're like, we make them crazy. I didn't even know if they were Catholic. I think they thought I was going to take a collection up or something. And I said, hey, listen, you do it, but don't be heavy-handed afterwards. We do it with the amount of just like we're told, just the amount of force that's necessary to effect the arrest. Don't allow it to become personal. Don't allow it to make you a sinner, like I'm going to really fix this guy 10 times over than he deserves.
Right.
You don't need to do that because now you are now the bad guy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jerry, did I explain that scripture? Now it's going to bother me. It's my typical Catholic school upbringing. Did I explain that scripture passage okay?
Yeah, I had heard that before, too. I didn't know the specifics, and that's why I didn't go down that direction, but I'm glad that you did. Mm-hmm. And I just want to end, Michael, thank you for your service, law enforcement service. Gosh, without you, men and women out there who are protecting us and keeping the streets and our houses safe and so forth, man, we would live like a lot of other people in the world live, sadly, tragically, where they just have kind of people looting houses and, destroying each other right and left. So
Right. Jerry, and can I say something else to what Michael said? Because it's very interesting. He said, you just use enough to, restrain somebody or get somebody under control. And that's true. But, we do that, okay, so he was talking about the police force and that and his job. But we do that just naturally. When you think about it, Jerry, somebody commits a sin, right? We play judge and jury with them. We make judgments. We say, okay, this is it, and so it's the same type of thing, too. I mean, I think as Catholic Christians, we've got to be able to give other souls the opportunity to make amends, to change direction, to make a better choice in the future. Don't you think as Catholic Christians, we're called to do that? Because we are, if we really believe we're the mystical body of Christ, that's part of our obligation.
Well, we have all the scripture passages, 70 times 7. When Peter asked Jesus, how many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times. Because 7 is like this number of perfection, and Peter's trying to prove how knowledgeable he is. And he says, Lord, shouldn't we forgive our brother 7 times? And he's probably waiting for this pat on the head. That's right, Peter. That's right, coming from Jesus. But Jesus says, no, Peter, 70 times 7. Jesus just takes it up another notch. And here's the thing. Forgiveness, 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 over and over and over and over and over again. But boundaries can still be in place. If someone has offended me, Debbie, if someone's offended you countless times, the forgiveness must be there each of those times. But I would say there's a probably growing boundary. If it gets on to be a certain number of times that this has happened, that boundary is going to be put more solidly in place. And I think rightly so.
Right. Interesting. Just fascinating discussion we're having here today. Okay, let's hear what Dorothy has to say. And Dorothy's in Niagara Falls, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross. And Dorothy is a first-time caller. Hi, Dorothy. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, and thank you so much. And God bless you, Paul, for being there for everyone.
You're welcome.
I want to say, if it wasn't for you at this time right now in my life, I think I would be so confused and lost. Even being Catholic, Christian, I would be so lost because I do trust my faith, but I do live in the city of Niagara Falls and the state of New York. Our governor made it very hard for me to draw any kind of boundaries in life, especially in our city, due to the fact of the laws he made. I just don't understand them. I cannot understand abortions. I cannot understand giving children's free will. I feel he took away all of the rights of a parent that God gave us, these precious gifts. We're supposed to lead them into a righteous life. And at this time, I'm finding it very hard because I am a mother. I am a grandmother of 11. I adore my children, and I think that all children are the most precious gift from God. And right at this time, especially in New York State, I'm noticing that people are starting to give in and say, well, what can we do? And that's where I'm kind of like at lost at odds, because I know I pray every night. I pray for this world. I pray for our city especially. I pray for all of God's children, which are all of us. We are all God's children. But I don't understand how I could actually draw boundaries, moral type boundaries, without becoming upset at what he's doing. And right. I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do, because the governor is the governor. But like I tell people, he's not God. He is not God. He is a person. He's not God. God, he has his own rules, laws, and we're children of God. We do not have to follow Governor Cuomo's rules. They're not, they're laws, but they're not rules. And so I'm finding it very hard to draw boundaries when it comes to, because I want our city to go back the way it was, where all of us were one, right. Where we all went to church, where we all were a family. with everything, because we live so close to Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
With all the stuff going on in Buffalo, New York, like I tell people, never give up faith in the Lord, because this is not what he plans. He plans a great rewards for all of us.
Well, Dorothy, let me just jump in here for a second, because I am looking at the clock here. We've got a couple other phone calls, but some thoughts have come into my mind as well. And one of them is, bless you, Dorothy. You're a woman of great faith, and you also have a really keen sense of justice. And I know that because I have a very keen sense of justice as well. And sometimes it can get me to be thinking the same kinds of thoughts that you're talking about right here, angry about certain things going on in society and in culture and so forth. And what I have to do is I have to come back to myself, come back to my senses, so to speak, gather my thoughts, gather myself, and say, all right, what is my responsibility? Here's an example. Where I live here, not a week goes by when another marijuana dispensary or lounge or whatever they call them opens up. And friends, believe me, if you haven't seen this, they're putting money into these things. The buildings are nice. They're trendy. They look great in a downtown urban renewal area. And you see the billboards up all the time. And it just makes me, I just want to grab the steering wheel. I'm squeezing the steering wheel. And I say, wait a minute, am I the one who is perpetrating this? No. God is allowing it for whatever reason, but I'm not. So Debbie, we have to separate ourselves in a certain way from the things that we are really justly angry about, and our own peace of mind, our own peace of mind and joy of soul. We can't let those things be robbed, even though we see these very, I think, ungodly things happening.
I agree, Dorothy. I've said it quite often. Because I used to travel back to your area twice a year for the Station of the Cross pledge drives, and the folks in your area are just wonderful. I mean, down to earth, good, wholesome, just they love to give. You live in a beautiful area, and you're watching this happen from the government level, and it's trickling down to everybody living there, and everybody, like you said, people are starting to just kind of give in. And all I can say is this: as I hear you speak, I share your frustration. It's so sad. It's so sad. But the good news is there are a lot of people you can surround yourself with. One of them is the Station of the Cross. They are doing some phenomenal work getting the gospel message out to all of your community and surrounding areas, and they're wonderful to be around. We've got to be around like-minded people, and we've got to build. We've got to find those connections and build. And the reason why I say this is because I come from Arizona. It used to be a very ultra-conservative state, and now it's moving in a very fast pace to the opposite of that. But we have a lot of groups, a lot of good, strong Catholic Christian groups that are saying, no, don't give in. Let's get down there. Let's show our faces. Let's go down when they're passing these bills that are against what we believe as Catholic Christians. And it's working, and people are listening, and people are starting to respond. And the conservative movement is coming back in a very wholesome way. So, Dorothy, if that gives you any consolation, I just think you still have so many resources around you in the Niagara Falls area, one of them being the Station of the Cross, your great radio station right there. And you have such fine folks around you. I would link up with them, find out what people are doing, and let your voices be heard. That's what I would do. What do you think, Dorothy?
Thank you so much. I want to say you just made me feel so much better. And I want to say thank you, and God bless all of you. I would like to also say the gentleman who said, dear mothers, and his name Dorothy, this is an honor, because actually that's one thing I am proud of my name, because I found out that Dorothy stands for God's gift to the world. And I kind of laugh because I tell people everybody is God's gift to the world. So Dorothy is everybody's name, I guess. And I tell people everyone is God's gift to the world. And so on that note, I want to say your mother was one amazing little lady. And I want to say also, is there any way with the Station of the Cross here in our area, I could get a phone number so I could connect with them, please? If there's any way whatsoever I can get a phone number that I can connect with them. I would love that.
Well, it's on the stationofthecross.com, their website. But Ryan, if you can talk to Dorothy, I mean, you can easily just look it up, Ryan, and it's there are numbers right there where you can reach the station. Dorothy, if I had it right in front of me, I would give it to you. But it's so easy; it's right on the stationofthecross.com. Did you pull it up, Jerry, or can Ryan give it to Dorothy?
No. Probably not in the amount of time that we have, but
okay.
Yeah, Dorothy, if you're able to maybe call back this show tomorrow, just say you wanted that phone number, or go to thestationofthecross.com. Actually, Dorothy, hang on the line. Ryan is looking for it right now, so we'll put you on hold, and he can get that information for you. And I just want one more quick thing, and this is sort of a tangent, but I mentioned the thing that gets under my skin is the proliferation of these marijuana shops and dispensaries and all of this stuff. And I know among our listeners and among the population in general, Debbie, there are people who say, well, for medical reasons, or it's no worse than alcohol or whatever. Maybe all those things are true, and I don't use it myself. I tried it a few times in high school. I was way back then. It didn't really do anything for me, so I've never touched the stuff again. But I just feel like the cons outweigh the pros in this sort of thing. And if you feel like you want to email me about that, that's fine. But I would suggest you look up Jesse Romero's book. He's got a book called "What is Wrong with Marijuana: 50 Questions and Answers," and he has a 21-year-old man who had been smoking pot since he was 10, and he got a copy of Jesse's book because he felt like he was going to shred it intellectually. And after reading it 3 times, he says, your book is information overload, and the prayers at the end for us addicts are very powerful. I'm back in the church now, and you made a believer out of me. So it's What is Wrong with Marijuana? 50 Questions and Answers, a Christian Reflection on the Use of Marijuana by Jesse Romero, and you will find that at jesseromero.com, okay? Mm-hmm. Just wanted to throw that in because I know our area is not the only one that's seeing that industry grow considerably.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. We're talking good stuff. Can I just, so Ryan is looking for the Station of the Cross number. We probably should have memorized the pledge drive number, Jerry. That would have been easy.
Well,
right?
Here, I'm on their website here.
Yeah,
so
you go ahead. But can I just share? Hang on, Dorothy.
Sure.
Okay. Let me just share this real quickly because this just came in by Facebook. And listen to this. Robert said, this is excellent. And Robert, if it's okay, I'm going to borrow this. Setting boundaries allows us to serve God fully. Those that we serve will get the best we have to offer. That's from Robert on Facebook. I love that. I am totally, if it's okay, Robert, I'm going to borrow that. I think that's so true because it allows us to serve God fully. Anna Marie says, people are awkward and many people don't know how to have a conversation at all. They've been staring at their phone for years and they have no idea how to converse anymore or what proper boundaries are. I would agree with that. Technology has really disconnected us. Jerry, did I stall enough so you could have that number? No?
Yeah, actually, I passed it over to Ryan. But
good. Okay, so we'll get it to Dorothy.
Yeah,
okay.
He just gave it to her. Great. Good
Perfect.
show team. Way to go, show team.
I know,
again.
Great job. But see, it's so wonderful. See, and that's a good point. Let's bring this up because we mentioned the Station of the Cross, but let's bring this up real quickly. Your local radio station, your local Catholic radio station, we're coming up on pledge drive season. They're going to be saying on the air, we need the necessary funds for the next 3 months, the next 6 months. Please step up, tell your friends, get it on Facebook, support your local Catholic radio station. And if you can remember EWTN as well, that would be great because we're all in this together and it's a beautiful effort and it's making a difference. It's helping souls and that's what we're all called to do.
Yeah, and just another follow-up on that. We all know that the new tax deduction situation, that most of us get a large lump deduction. Most of us, many of us anyway, do not give charitable donations and other things to even get to that point of getting that amount of an deduction. So maybe it can discourage, in some cases, it can discourage tax deductible giving, especially to Catholic radio and other ministries. Please just know that you're giving to God. You're giving to the Lord and this Catholic radio station. What has it meant to you to be listening not just to Take Two, but to all the shows? And please continue to be as generous as you always have been.
Yes, absolutely. And Kevin, we're so sorry we couldn't get to you, but you have an interesting comment about entitlement and boundaries in the family. We'd love to hear your story. Could you email us at take2@ewtn.com? Sorry, Kevin, we won't get to you today, but tomorrow we have another show planned about when saying I'm sorry is just not enough. You're looking for that reconciliation. It's just not going to happen. Saying I'm sorry, it's just not enough. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow on Take Two. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.